What's up, fight fans? And I'm back at it with another one here at Round One Sports Talk. We're going to be going over some of the biggest fights of the year so far, right? And we're going to touch up on the Tim Tszyu versus Tony Harrison fight, as well as the Naoya Inoue versus Stephen Kubo Fulton fight. So, without further ado, let's get right into the video. Wow, what a fight last night. Man, uh, what can I say? Tim Tszyu called his shot. He's on an interview saying that he was going to knock out Tony Harrison in the ninth round. And he did exactly that. It goes to show you that when a lot of fight fans, and including some of my subscribers that commented and said that even Tony Harrison should be on a pound for pound list, that he is one of the most skilled and craftiest fighters in boxing today. And I said, even though he is high, he has a real good high ring IQ and he has a good boxing mind. Okay. But it's one thing to have a big ring IQ and a boxing mind, and it's another thing to put it all together and to stay disciplined the entire fight. And I believe that that's where Tony Harrison lacks. Okay. In some of his preparation and his training and his ability to, the brothers always want to look good. Sometimes he rather looks good, wasting unnecessary punches, unnecessary energy to feed into the crowd. And he's in there in the first rounds, he's like putting on a show, right? Rather than boxing and fighting Tim Tszyu. Tim Tszyu had a plan. He stayed the course. He stayed focused. He knew exactly what he was going to do. At no point in the fight did he look like, worried or like his game plan wasn't working. No, he was consistent. And this is what I mean about a pound for pound fighter. Although you could be quite skilled, you have to be able to adapt to every style. You can't have holes in your game. As you can see, a pressure fighter gave Tony Harrison more than enough than he could handle. Okay? If you didn't know this, a little history lesson. Tim Tszyu's father was the one that stopped, Caster Tszyu was the one that stopped Zab Judah's reign. He took his O away when he brutally knocked him out. Okay? And that's on highlight videos all over the internet. When you see Zab Judah getting up, falling down, getting up, falling down, getting up, that's Tim Tszyu's dad. Okay? They even favor each other. They look alike a lot, the father and son. If you look at the father in that era and you look at the son now, they look alike, So it's very rare when you ever get in sports like Michael Jordan's son. He never turned into Michael Jordan. I don't think Tom Brady's son is going to turn into Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? It's, Julio Cesar Chavez's son never turned into, you know what I'm saying? The son really never sometimes matches the dad or surpasses the dad and they're in that same sport. You know what I'm saying? It's very rare when that happens. And it looks like that might be happening right now. I think that Tim Tszyu is making a name for himself now. And he's starting to separate himself from his dad's legacy, and he's making his own as he goes. This was a big fight. It was a risky fight. It was a 50-50 fight. I told you guys it was going to be. Did I think Tim Tszyu was going to knock out Tony Harrison? No. I didn't think he was going to knock him out. I thought he was going to beat him in a 12-round decision. He had a better chance. And I really didn't pick anybody in that fight because I told you it was a 50-50 fight. I didn't know who to pick. So I stayed neutral. I let him go, you know what I'm saying? And the best man won. So, the year is shaping up to be an interesting year, 2023. Let's remind you that we just had the Gervonta Tank Davis versus Hector Luis Garcia fight, and he brutally knocked him out, right? And he left him visually impaired. With no cut, no huge bruise, bang, so that's leading the way for knockout of the year right now. That's, you know what I'm saying? So the Tim Tszyu one was a good knockout, was a good stoppage, but I think Gervonta Davis's knockout over Hector Luis Garcia was better. Okay. So, um, as we talk about the upcoming fights, I want to remind you and keep this at the forefront of your mind that boxing is a business disguised as a sport. Remember that. Boxing is a business disguised as a sport. And if you haven't already peeped this, when they announced the Naoya Inoue fight versus Stephen Kubo Fulton, they put it May 7th, ahead of the Devin Haney Lomachenko fight scheduled for May 22nd, right? They put it ahead of that because they knew that these big fights are going to start coming down the line. Most of these fights are pay-per-view fights. You know, everybody's not going to shell out that money to buy every fight. Which one are you going to buy first? So it's a business, okay? And since that's one of the biggest fights, I believe, of the year, they put it ahead of the Devin Haney fight, okay? And we'll get into the Devin Haney fight in a minute. So I want to also break down the Naoya Inoue Stephen Kubo Fulton fight. As we get closer to the fight, I'm gonna make a different video. My outtake on the fight will change. It's gonna vary. You know what I'm saying? As we get closer to the fight, because I also want to get a look at Stephen Kubo Fulton. I want to get a look at the monster. You know, I want to really get a look at him. You know, this fight can go in so many different ways, in so many different directions. The way I see the fight playing out, I feel that the monster beats him in a decision in 12 rounds. I think he can do enough to evade. I believe that Paul Butler showed that you can evade from him. The question is can he give it back? At some point in the fight, he's going to have to stand there with the monster and he's going to have to exchange. And even when he's bringing his offense to the monster, you have to remember that the monster is one of the best at counter punching. You know, he excels when it comes to counter punching. You know, his punch selection, his ability, distant timing, matched with speed and power, really gives a lot of opponents, you know, he's just a nightmare for opponents. You know, and Stephen Kubo Fulton, although he does possess, you know, good footwork, good ring IQ, good jabs, you know, I have to ask the question that if much slower fighters without the speed that Naoya Inoue has been able to touch Fulton, put him up against the ropes, and give him problems, and none of those fighters possessed the abilities or the skills that Naoya Inoue possesses. So, you know, that comes into mind. But just when I think about that, my boxing spider senses go off. And they remind me quickly that the reason why we just got what we saw last night is because the next time you see your fighter, you're going to see a better version of that fighter. And Stephen Kubo, if anybody has the ability, the skill, and the athleticism to come up with a game plan to shut the monster down, let me tell you right now, it's that man right there. You can see it. You cannot deny that Stephen Kubo Fulton is not an exceptional, you know, athlete. Okay, he has God-given talent. Okay, with the right coaching, right, and the proper preparation, he can win this fight. He can win this fight in a decision. Yes, he can. Yes, he can. He can. He can. Yes, he can. Yes, yeah. The more I think about it, the more, because if you had a talented fighter and you had a man that athletic and that skilled, bro, all you need is for him to stay focused and execute the game plan. No matter what happens in the fight, stay the course. Stay the course. Believe in your training. Okay? How many times have we seen that? You see what I'm saying? So that's the beauty about boxing, ladies and gentlemen. That's the beauty of our sport, that anything can happen. We can see Buster Douglas knock out Mike Tyson. We can be shocked and amazed, okay? And that's what this sport brings. What Tim Tszyu did last night is like what legends do. It's like what Babe Ruth did. He walks up to the plate, he points out into the stand. It's like Ali saying, I'm going to knock him out in the fourth. It's like, I'm Jordan saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go over here, step here, put in your face. There's nothing you can do about it. The legends call their shot. He called his shot. He said, in the ninth round, I'm going to knock out Tony Harrison. The ninth round came. You better believe I was at the TV like this. I was like, let's see what happens. Sure enough, he knocked him out. He had a game plan. He knew what he was doing. He stayed in it. It looked like Tony Harrison was feeding more into the crowd and was worried more about how he looked rather than executing his game plan. I believe he really underestimated Tim Tszyu. And he really went on that shit where he thought in his head, I ain't gonna let no white boy beat me on some dumb shit. He doesn't understand that's not a white dude. That's a fighter in front of you. It ain't got nothing to do with fighting. Ain't got nothing to do with that. Ain't nothing. You have a fighter standing in front of you. You better handle your business. And you better treat him accordingly. You know what I'm saying? Don't underestimate nobody in the fight business and fight game. If you're in the fight business and fight game, you're there for a reason, right? And all Tony Harrison said through all his interviews is how he got here. How did Tim Tszyu get here? You know what I'm saying? Oh, I've been fighting these dudes. He ain't fought the kind of fighters I fought. He ain't been in the kind of fights I've been in. This is going to catapult me back to a shot at the title. Blah, 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 blah. What happened? This man right here was focused. He stayed the course. That's a fighter. You see what I'm saying? So there's going to be a lot of big fights coming up. And Devin Haney versus Vasyl Lomachenko is a big fight that will be coming up. And my question is what version of Lomachenko are we going to get? That's my biggest question. Are we going to get Lomachenko that we saw in the beginning, the first half of his career, where he was like the Matrix and he was moving around beautifully? Because let me tell you, even though Lomachenko and fighters like that are on these lists, that man can fight. Okay? Yeah, they might back him up for marketing purposes and to make money and because he attracts fans. So what? So what? The man can fight. That man can fight. He's very talented, Lomachenko, and he's very fast. The problem is, where is he at the age of 36? Lomachenko came into boxing late. He stood too long as an amateur. 2 gold medals. Come on, man, right? So coming up into this anticipated matchup versus young Devin Haney, that's going to be what, all of 23, 24 years old? And Lomachenko's 36 years old. So what version of him are we going to get? Now, with every great legend, we all know in the sport of boxing, the great ones always have one good fight left in them. They always got that one good last performance that they pull off. He can shock the world and show up and rock Devin Haney. I've always said this. I've always said this on my channel. I believe Devin Haney is one of the most talented up-and-coming young fighters and one of the most youngest accomplished fighters. I don't believe there's a younger fighter than him that has accomplished more than he has in current time right now. Okay? But I believe he's young. And I believe he has a lot to learn. You know what I'm saying? And I believe he's going to get better. And I believe he is going to achieve much more than what he has already achieved. Yes. But as of right now, being 24 years old. I'm not going to say because he's young that he's beatable because he's young. I'm just saying that he's beatable because he's not complete. Okay. So, Lomachenko is a polished fighter. That I don't think Lomachenko is going to get any better than what he already is. He just needs to show up and just be himself. That's all Lomachenko needs to be. If the Lomachenko we saw in the first half of his career, if that version of him can show up, that's enough. That's enough to give anybody a tough night. You know what I'm saying? So that's my point right there. I don't know what version we're gonna get. You know what I'm saying? And which also speaks to mine. What version of Devin Haney are we gonna get? We're gonna get an even better version that beat Camboza twice. He's gonna be better than that version. I can tell you that much. I would just like to see how much better he's gotten. And it's remarkable that sometimes the fighter that you last saw comes in and in some cases they exceed their expectations. They exceed it, meaning the fighter was even better than what you thought the version you were going to see. And when we get that, man, it's amazing, right? You're like, oh no, this person. Look, I know this ain't has nothing to do with boxing. It's the UFC. But that girl Shevchenko, when she fought that Mexican girl, I didn't think that Mexican girl stood a chance against Shevchenko. It goes to show you, man. It goes to show you that on any night, it could be just your night. It can be your night. So, I want to, as the Naoya Inoue Stephen Kubo Fulton fight gets closer to the date, I'm going to make more videos and I would like to talk more. Nothing that I'm saying right now is sketched in stone. I'm going to make my prediction on how I see the fight going out. There's many different versions of the fight that keep playing in my head. I see Stephen Kubo Fulton giving him a great fight, but I see Naoya Inoue winning in a decision, whether it's a split decision or unanimous decision in the 12th round. I think that Stephen Kubo Fulton's footwork and ability to evade can survive. He has the ability to survive. Now, whether he has the ability to survive and win the fight, that yet to be seen. Like I said, I want to get a better look at them as the fight goes on in their training camps, see what I could, what I can dig up. And as the fight gets closer, I'm going to break down more things and it's subject to change. Like I said, I might even change my mind. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, because it's like, the more you hear and the more you watch, you're like, wait a minute, yeah, this, that, and everything. But and then I keep myself in check. And my boxing spider senses always tells me, you can't predict the outcome of human nature. You don't know what's going on in the background in both these men's lives. I don't know if they're happy in their household or they having any financial problems or they going to sleep with, I don't know any of these factors. You know what I'm saying? And these are factors in these fights, and human tendencies sometimes come into play, in a fight. So, you know, um I believe that in this particular instance, um, we're gonna get two versions of elite fighters being at the top of their game. I don't think the fight lets us down. I think these are two highly dedicated and focused individuals. Both of them don't take me like they're these party guys and they got all these problems. They both are two fighters that enjoy the sport. They like what they're doing, and they're both daring to be great. That is check, check, and check. And those check marks indicate great fight so far. Hopefully, there's no injuries, no postponement, no one pulls out of the fight, and we get the fight as scheduled. You know what I'm saying? May both men be healthy. I want Two healthy, 100%. I know it never happens. I've never seen it happen. But the best versions of both men, and hopefully injured free to the point where they can both perform and it doesn't take away from any of their performances if it's any injury like that, you know what I mean? So please like, share, comment on the videos, let me know so far how the year has been playing out, some of the big fights that are coming up. I can't remember in the past 10 years, a year being as explosive, and it, has had me to the point where that I was like, big fight, big fight. Look, David Benavidez and Caleb Plant is coming up next. This is how, that fight right there is a huge mega fight. And we're talking about all these other fights. And any other year, on any other time, that fight would have been fight of the year. You see? But it's got competition now. Now, Caleb Plant and David Benavidez, listen, you got Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis coming up. You got Naoya Inoue versus Stephen Kubo Fulton, Devin Haney, Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez, Josh Taylor. You got Joshua. Come on, man. It is, I can't remember in the past 10 years, a year in which, in fact, the biggest fight that could be of the year is not even on the year scheduled, which is Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. I haven't even said that fight. You see what I'm saying? That's that, and we're like, you know what? We got these fights right here. You know what I mean? And there are a lot of good up and coming blue chip prospects and talent that are going to be on the undercards of many of these fights. So not only are we getting big fights, but the undercard fights will be highly entertaining as well. And I'm going to be looking forward to a lot of those fights. I'm looking forward to making a breakdown on a lot of these fights. I can't wait to hear your opinions. That Tim Tszyu, Tony Harrison fight, I learned a lot, and I was reminded about how the sport of boxing plays out and how anything can happen and how any fighter has a puncher's chance. So please like, subscribe, share the videos. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. I'm on to another one. Peace.